The first step in tearing out a tile is to remove all the grout around it. If you don't, the tile next to it might chip when you try to remove the old broken tile. And as you can see, I'm using a utility knife for this. It's important to be careful when using a knife because it could slip and scratch the neighboring tiles. Yet, since this is a porcelain tile I'm working with, there's no need to be overly cautious. Just be careful if you're working around natural stone or ceramic tiles that are glazed, or glass tiles for that matter. Now, the other tools I'm going to be using is a regular hammer. I'm using a mason hammer here, but any hammer works. And some different chisels, and a small pry bar also comes in very handy. I'm removing this tile because an electrician made a mistake while trying to drill into the crawl space underneath. As you can see, he drilled too high and drilled into the shower above. Luckily, he drilled high enough to miss the shower pan liner, and if he had gone just 4 or 5 inches lower, he would have drilled into the shower pan itself, and that would have meant a much bigger and much costlier repair. And I was also lucky that the wall behind the tile wasn't damaged when I tried to remove the tile. Yet that meant that I had to do a little more work to remove the old thinset. Now, Milwaukee makes a fin tool blade for removing grout and thinset. Alas, I didn't have one, so I'm just chipping away. Now here I'm being careful not to damage the waterproofing membrane or the old mud behind the thinset. And we just have to really just to remove enough to be able to add some new thinset. Now if we don't remove enough of the old thinset, you'll end up with a tile that's too proud of the rest of the wall. And our goal with this repair is to make everything look like it never happened. So to that end, it's important that we remove enough thinset to leave about an 1/8 to 3/16 of another new layer of thinset behind it. And to achieve that, we need to make sure that we clean all the thinset off, also around the corners where the old tile met the neighboring tiles. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I had to remove this tile because an electrician had drilled in through the wall. However, if you need to remove a tile for any other reason and there isn't a convenient hole already made in the tile, you'll have to try to use your hammer to break it and use a small or very thin chisel to start breaking the tile apart so you can get into it. Don't try to chisel the tile from the sides to begin with, because that way you might end up chipping the neighboring tiles. Now here I'm checking to see if the new tile fits, and I can tell that I need to remove a little more thinset. And there we go, it fits perfectly. Next, I'm plugging the hole that the electrician drilled. Here I'm using just pan liner glue to make sure that it ends up being waterproof. This wall was very thick, so repair with some mortar had to be done on the outside stonework as well. Now here I'm painting with waterproofing membrane. This fixes any damage that might have happened to the waterproofing, and it also stops the old thinset from absorbing too much moisture when we're setting our tile again. That's because we want the new thinset to dry nice and slow for a really strong bond. And after cutting the new tile, I also grind down the back of it to lessen the raised edges, just to give ourselves that little bit more room for thinset. And after setting the tile, I check for full coverage and add more thinset where needed. Then I place some spacers inside the grout lines so we can finish grouting everything in one day. And there we go, all clean, all done. Hope you found this video helpful. Please check out nordicstone.co for more information and a list of tools used. Hope your project turns out well. Be safe. Bye.